Now it's cold.
Yeah.
So now we have to talk about what? Protecting our plants in the winter landscape. So how do we do that?
Putting the garden to bed.
Putting the garden to bed.
Well, the thing about this time of year, going into the winter, is you have to watch the weatherman to bring in your tender plants.
Right.
You know, you've got all these things growing out in your yard and you want to protect them and bring them in. If you've got the tender things like the house plants, having the weatherman on or watching on your phone, you know, checking your weather out to see what the lows are at night, and then to look for the predictions of frost and freezes. I did a little reading, Chris, on the difference in frost and freeze because that's always kind of confused me. You know, a frost is just, apparently according to the meteorology guys, is just when there's visible frost. Okay. Well, see, that didn't explain a lot. So I'm thinking, okay, and you can have a freeze and not a frost. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
It all depends. Yeah. And, but it all depends, apparently, on the water vapor in the air. Okay. Check the weatherman, and, you know, if it says frost or freeze, you know, take precautions. Obviously, a freeze is something that's, the air is below freezing. Gotcha. So it's going to do damage to plants that cannot stand, you know, freezing temperatures. A lot of things we have can withstand a frost. You know, some things like our vegetables even taste better with a
cool
frost.
Season vegetables like
like turnips and radishes and carrots and the cabbage and the broccoli and all these cool season vegetables. And I got to thinking, well, now why is that? Why do these things taste better? Well, you know what I found out? That in some plants, that when cold weather comes, it triggers in these plants to store and produce more sugar. So that's why your turnips are always sweeter, as my grandmama said, after, you know, a lot of cold weather.
Good to know that. Okay.
So yeah, so it's putting all that sugar in there, getting ready for winter, because if you know something's got a lot of sugar, the freezing point for it's lower.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So
that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So plant tenderness, you know, you have to look at that and figure out, you know, what needs to be protected and what doesn't. And some plants that are hardy even in your zone, supposedly, can be damaged by quickly falling temperatures of long duration. They haven't had time to acclimate to a gradual cold, and if it just bop, we get, what do they call those, Arctic whatevers that come in. Yeah, the Arctic blast comes in, you know, that can damage. So pay attention again to the weatherman and see, because he'll tell you if there's an Arctic whatever coming in, and to protect your dogs and, you know, all your animals and all that stuff. But there's all kinds of types of protection.
Okay, yeah, let's get into that.
Yeah, that we can use. And if you just want to cover the plant, you know, with a protective covering, plastic is not the best. A lot of people just throw a garbage bag over something. That doesn't offer a whole lot of protection, especially if the plastic touches the plant, because the cold from the plastic, you can get damage. So things that are more insulated, like blankets, or I've used old sleeping bags that I go to the thrift stores and buy the old blankets, the old sleeping bags. You can use styrofoam coolers, work good.
How about that?
You know, old styrofoam coolers. You can use buckets, you can use those are called cloches, right? The fancy name is something that you turn over on top of the plant that's got a shape to it, kind of holds it up off of it. So like a milk jug. I know you've seen people protect their tomatoes with a cut up bottom off a milk jug, or a 2-liter Coke bottle or something like that. And I've even used my old tomato cages to put around plants that I want to protect that I know could get some damage from suddenly dropping temperatures. And I use my tomato cage and then wrap the blanket around that and then cover the top, because the soil holds heat.
Right. That is
particularly if it's a wet soil, and that heat radiates up out of the ground overnight, so you want to capture that.
Right, don't want to lose it.
Yeah, don't want to lose that radiant heat from the earth. So covering that up, you know, takes the, you know, keeps that heat in there. So let's see, what else? I had some other things. Oh, baskets, you know, like bushel baskets. I mean, just whatever you've got that you can use that's, you know, around the house, or you can order fancy things online. You know, like the water towers and stuff, you know, that you fill up with water and it goes around your tomatoes and stuff. But there are a lot of things in the, you know, catalogs that have row covers.
Yeah,
you know, the white row covers. Yeah, that will hold temperature, you know, a couple of degrees.
Okay.
You know.
So let me ask you this. So should you remove the covering?
Oh yeah. Yeah, you definitely need to remove whatever you've got if it's a sunny, bright day, because it'll be just like the greenhouse effect.
Yeah.
It's going to rapidly build up temperature in that little enclosed space, and you're going to wind up killing the thing regardless of your good efforts.
All right, good.
So whatever you cover them with, there's a couple of things to remember. It needs to make ground contact because of the heat coming from the earth. You can put it down if it's a blanket, and you need to kind of stake things up. If you're using a blanket or a sleeping bag or an old quilt or something like that, or space blankets. You know, you can use the space blankets that they have that campers use and stuff. Put the luminized side down though, because that radiates heat straight back to the heat that comes up from the ground radiates right back. So put it down on the ground contact. You know, put like bricks or pieces of board, or just, you know, use pin downs.
Right.
You know, I cut up old wire coat hangers and make my own pins.
Okay.
You know, recycle and use those to hold everything down so that no air and the heat can't get out from under there.
Oh, that's
so,
good. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and don't cinch if you've got a plant that you're wanting to completely cover. Don't cinch it around the trunk.
Okay, got it.
You know, because what are you doing? You're losing the heat coming from the earth.
Got it. Okay.
You know. So, and I know up north sometimes if they got a bad snowstorm and with cold winter winds, you can get that wind burn from stuff, and they'll wrap like burlap or whatever around their evergreens so you don't get that tip burn. But down here in the south, we don't have to worry about that so much.
No, we don't worry about that too much. Right. Not too much.
Let's see, of course, taking it off, you know, be sure and do that. And then there's other things besides covering, you know, the plant to add the protection. We can mulch. We were talking about that earlier about, you know, and don't cover the crown. That's important. If it's a perennial, you don't want to mound up everything on top of it because it holds the moisture in and you get the crown all wet and rotten and you wonder why the thing don't come up next spring because you were so careful, you know, putting the mulch, because mulch does a lot of good things, obviously. It insulates the soil and keeps the temperatures from fluctuating up and down. It's kind of like a buffer, you know, or an insulation for that. And you can also group pots together, you know, make a big cluster of them if you've got a bunch of,
at the nurseries.
They'll cluster them together and then they'll throw mulch on top of all that, especially woodies, you know, the woody plants. And just make a mound of it, and that will work really well, like old sawdust, or, you know, you get from an old sawmill, or just whatever, you know, some kind of mulch. And you can also, with young trees, there's a cold damage that you get. If you've got a young sapling, a fruit tree or something, it can get sunscald on the trunks, you know, in the winter on the south or southwest. When the sun hits it and it's been really cold and that tissue thaws and they burst, you know, the cells burst, you get that bark splitting or trunk splitting. So there's things you can do to prevent that. You know, you can wrap an old blanket around it for the winter, you know, and you can buy these tree collars or whatever they call them, you know, that protect the trunk. And you can also, this is what I've done, with little saplings that are, you know, about an inch, maybe in diameter, no bigger, like a pipe, like your conduit and stuff. You use the pipe insulation. You know, those foam tube things that are slit down the side. You know, you just slide that thing on the trunk, you know.
You're telling us some good stuff.
Yeah, and that works great. You know, or you can use those old, what's those things called, those pool things? Yeah, noodles, that's it. Well, see, they got a hole in them, so you just cut through that, you know, and you can get several out of that thing, and they're cheap.
How about that?
So, yeah, that works too. So that kind of insulates to keep you from having sunscald on your young trunks. And another thing that you may not think of, but you know when I said a while ago that saturated soil holds more heat.
Where you going?
So always, if it's dry and there's a cold wave coming, water the plants well. Because you're going to retain more heat in the soil. So make sure that, you know, your plants are watered well before that real cold, freezing weather comes through.
Yeah, I don't think people think about that.
No, they don't. Don't think about watering in the winter and going in the fall. Yeah, they don't. Yeah.
That was some good stuff. We appreciate that.
Sure, I've killed a lot of plants, so I know some tricks, you know.
Yeah, this is definitely going to help protect our plants in our winter landscape, so thank you much for that. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. To find out more information on this topic, just click on the familyplotgarden.com link in the description.